Tēnā koutou katoa. Good morning and welcome to this conversation. My name is Matthew Groves. I am the Geospatial National Lead at the Department of Conservation and a committee member of the New Zealand Esri User Group. This morning we're in conversation with two geospatial leviathans, names that are well known in the geospatial community. You don't like that?
I don't think I've ever been called a leviathan before.
Duane Wilkins, for all the years I've known Duane, his primary focus has been to sell the value of geospatial to communities. And it's a privilege to be here talking about some of his recent work. Roland Poutama is a steadfast stalwart of the New Zealand Esri community. He has been president of the New Zealand Esri User Group for longer than he'd care to admit. Director of Journey GIS, and previously worked for Matawhenua and the Department of Conservation, and is involved in most things GIS in the East Cape. So welcome to both of you.
Kia ora.
Duane, perhaps you can tell us what this is and where it's come from.
Cool. Thanks, Matt. Nā Poutama Matawhenua was a series that we set up through LINS. It's intended to help increase awareness and grow capability in those working in iwi Māori trusts and to improve Māori outcomes, as well as improve capability in those groups to access, use and benefit from geospatial information every fortnight at 9:30 on a Tuesday morning. We'll pick a different kaupapa, different theme. We'll look at a theme such as how do you use GIS for environmental monitoring. So we'll have a look at creating a sampling form. We'll have a look at a variety of websites like Lawa. We'll have a look at what you can access through regional council websites to avoid having to duplicate or just making sure that people are aware that, hey, this data is available. Yeah, so we started with land blocks, then we did 3D fly-throughs. We took that into story maps. We had a look at all the different data that are available for waterways, because when you actually get into waterways, it's actually quite a complex area. There's no singular river data set that's going to meet everyone's need. And then most recently, yesterday, we looked at sites of significance.
That's a phenomenal effort there. So how many have you done to date?
So we've done about 12 one-hour Tuesday morning sessions. We'll end up with about 26 in total for this year.
It is a great effort, and it's a great lead by LINS to be doing this. Is that a fundamental piece of your role?
About half my time is seconded into other agencies, so supporting them to increase their capability, and then the other half is at the moment is generally focused on webinars and other outreach activities. With Roland, I've had a long history, and others with Te Kahui Mana Hokai, the Māori GIS Association, and having support from Te Kahui Mana Hokai to say, hey, I'm keen to do this, so if you'd be happy to support this, draw on committee members to come and join the hui, join the demos, because people get sick of me very, very quickly. I know I get sick of listening to myself when I'm editing the videos, but having that interaction makes it much more interesting. And one of the key things was not having a PowerPoint at all.
So you touch on Roland there, and perhaps we can bring Roland in and look at the sort of consequences. What has been the effect of the work?
I guess actually before we get to that, I'll point out that although Duane's saying 26 webinars, what he's not mentioning is in between these webinars. So the webinars everyone's signing up for is every 2 weeks. And the week in between, he's actually doing an informal catch up with the attendees. So in between, it's not recorded, it's not structured, it's just a conversation piece, much like this, where Duane makes himself available to the attendees. they get to start forming what they want to learn, and it's a great feedback loop. So it's not, and Duane's underselling himself here, it's not 26, it's actually going to be 52. It's a thing that happens every week where people are feeding back what they're getting from the webinar the week before or the week before that. It's a time to catch up. Did you miss it? Was it a bit tough? So the program itself, and I think that's what makes it really different, is it's developing by osmosis, sort of like each week the structured program is being fed by the casual program. And the casual program is where I see the real value being added to people.
So on that point then, what was happening before in this area?
We had the Indigenous mapping wānanga, but they're kind of a big bang one-off 3 days on site. And of course with COVID, it's not been possible.
Yeah, the place conferences organised by TKMH, there's been times where a training component has been added the day before the conference or the day after. But I think it was COVID that changed the world around how do we deliver training. And it used to be, and what I've seen with this program is the big structured chunks of training where we come in for 4 days or 3 days and everybody sits in a room and we focus on training non-stop. I think the road forward is actually little bits and pieces more frequently, like this program of 1 hour every week of just taking it out. People can spare an hour. It's hard now to structure your work life around how do I convince the boss to let me go to Wellington for 3 days or Rotorua for 3 days or Hamilton or wherever the training's being held. I mean, maybe it's a good time to point out this program is free. People are signing up and joining. It's costing them nothing except 1 hour of their time. I see the consequence of this program being the thirst is being quenched for now from a group of people who are wanting to learn, who don't have access to the stuff that we take for granted as GIS professionals and working inside an industry. And these are people who don't work in this industry, who don't quite understand the technology associated with our industry, and this is a chance for them to get to understand it a bit more. One of the consequences is that thirst is growing as their understanding grows, their learning is going to need to grow. Some of the feedback in just the chat component of the webinar is amazing, that people are actually glued, and I see plenty of webinars where people just, the numbers drop and people have left, but webinars where nobody leaves without saying goodbye and thank you, which is an incredibly Māori thing to do, but also that they're really upset they have to leave and they're going to miss, they feel like they're missing out on something.
So I'm really interested, I mean, all this work that Duane's been putting into these sessions, what have been the consequences on the ground? What do we think is the effect of this work to community?
Duane, if you probably got a couple of examples of stuff that they're doing that we do in the industry on a day-to-day basis, but these attendees have started from absolutely knowing nothing about geospatial technology.
Yeah, I mean, a highlight for me very recently actually is one of our participants created a series of maps using retro lens imagery overlaying, and then shared those images on our Slack group. But that was a real highlight for me, just seeing the change that's being able to affect with their ability to use those tools, to apply them to their own environment. And so we'll build on that in the coming sessions, looking at how to capture data, the basic workflow, and also things like structure, schemas, and then get into things like backups.
And I mean, although it wasn't an auto-rectified image, if we sort of use jargon, but it was a job extremely well done. They bought retro lens imagery from, I think, the 1940s or late 1940s or 1950s, and they're now getting access to those tools. So they're now growing their level of understanding about land. It's not just what they see when they look out the window. I still hear stories about the geospatial industry as the fastest growing industry in the world. Programs like this, and it's not a series of webinars. I think you're getting the gist of that now, Matt. It's, there's support mechanisms like Slack in place. There's chat. There's ongoing networking, albeit virtually. There's structured webinars in between. There's informal, how can we help you? Was everything going well? So that this is a fully structured learning initiative.
Where do we go from here, given that we are in COVID is moving on. That changes potentially the way we interface in the next couple of years. Maybe we'll go back to the way we used to do things, or have we changed for good? What's the forward momentum for this and for the way we do things in New Zealand, do you think?
Personally, I think we need to drop the idea of trying to get back to something that we thought was the norm and focus on what's working. And if I'm going to highlight anything in this discussion, it's Ngā Poutama Matawhenua is working. And the old adage, don't try and fix something that isn't broken. And trying to drag people back to the old learning environment in a classroom, sit in the front, listen to me. I think we've moved on. And I'm really pleased that we've moved on.
Has the joy of metadata reached the far corners of New Zealand yet?
Yeah, I'm not sure if we'll go there just yet. Maybe next year.
So, just going. So
that one word still makes every GIS professional laugh. Metadata is still that one word that just stops everybody or just creates laughter.
You mean the description field?
See if you can break.
Yeah, we'll take that.
If you can break that one, then you're broken geospatial. What have been the things that has made this possible to actually achieve?
One of the key strategic goals is increasing use and awareness of geospatial information, particularly property data, and enabling area Māori to make the best use of their lands. This has a direct impact on making that strategic goal a reality. What has made it successful is having the backing of LINZ and the trust of managers to just suck it and see, as Norm Thornley at Conservation often will say, and that's kind of something I really learnt from Norm, is we just suck it and see, try it, give it a go.
One of the nicest things that happened in 2020 was to see you awarded with the Public Service Medal for this work and related outreach stuff. How did you feel about that Public Service Award? What did it mean to you?
Yeah, it was pretty special, right? But the key thing with that was it's not just about what I've done, it's the support that I've had along the way from Roland, from Muka, from others that have enabled me to make the best use of what things I can make a contribution to, from being able to get support, for example, to twist the arm of IT to allow us to use Zoom, because that's what our audience uses. Teams is fine for in the office, but
I'm going to jump in there. I mean, Duane's totally, again, underselling himself. It's super easy to support someone like Duane because he delivers. He'll put in the effort. The success of this program in particular, and other initiatives I've done with Duane when I was with TKMH, the place conferences that we organised. It's really easy to support a guy, and like, there's an old saying, it's easy to back winners. So when Duane comes to you and saying, hey, I've got this idea around sort of this outreach program, he's put some serious thought into it. So it's like, cool, how do we help? And I think it's probably the largest geospatial learning initiative that New Zealand's ever seen, and pretty stoked to be a part of it. I've got to see it grow from October. I'm dying to see where these people are going to get to by the end of this year. So it's really cool. And I guess if I say one last thing, it's reminding that it is about learning. And Duane's highlighted it. It's not about teaching. You can't teach anybody anything. It's about providing opportunities to learn. And these people are learning, and that's what's cool.
Yeah, thank you for that, Roland. Gentlemen, Duane Wilkins, Roland Pamana, thank you so much for your conversation today. I think we recognise that New Zealand is a small team, and collectively we're here to help each other through the coming years and to build geospatial capability for the benefit of New Zealand.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Good, mate.
Cool.
and I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna love to see this editing job. Actually.
Oh Jesus, man!
Hey, yeah, it's recording.
Okay. Good morning and welcome. His energy and enthusiasm are his trademark. To be. Oh, Duane, what's this thing I'm talking about?
What is this?
Yeah. What the hell are you up to, Duane? Stick around long enough and they give you a medal.
That is not the attitude. No, can't bask in your glory. Come on.
That was good too, you.
What does it mean to you? Does it mean anything to you?
What might be? I'm just thinking. Introduction.
It's only you. You're swearing the most, man, which is amazing. I don't think I swore at all.
I'll leave those in.
Yeah.